if you find yourself in one of those positions where, hey, I know I need to do something, and you find yourself like, tidying the house, organizing all the shelves, and like all these things that are just procrastination things, call yourself out. Hey, welcome to the Kingdom Builders Academy podcast. We are so glad that you are here, and we're excited to dive into a topic that really, I think all of our students, all of our attendees and audience members, when we do events and podcasts and coaching programs, want to know. It's, why do some people succeed fast and others take time? And Coach Tam, I remember asking you a long time ago, what is the success rate of your students? And you told me that it's 100%. Everybody succeeds. And I'm like, Coach Tam, that's impossible. Everybody can't succeed. But you told me if they don't quit, they will succeed. And I've really come to believe that that's true. But we do see that some succeed right away, right out of the gate. They just have, expansive, exceptional success. And other people, they take time. They have to get rooted and planted, and it takes time to grow, and then they flourish from there. But Coach Tam, let's jump in. Why do you think that some people succeed fast while others take time?
Well, I think that a lot of it has to do with preparation in the secret place. Honestly, I think about the scripture that where Jesus said that what you do in private will be rewarded publicly. And I believe that there's a correlation in terms of, when we talk about succeeding quickly. I mean, that's a relative term anyway. I spent 10 years of my life in the live event business making no money, treading water, losing 30,000, making 40, losing 10,000, making 20. And this went on for 10 years. But interestingly, on the outside, it looked like I was succeeding, in a crazy way, thousands and thousands of people attending the events. But in terms of monetary success, I really wasn't succeeding in a crazy way. But I was learning incredible lessons along the way. But a whole decade of your life, like that seems slow to me. And I can tell you that it was really quite painful. But what it did was it gave me an incredible education and preparation. And then on the other side of that, after 10 years of treading water, I was able to put the pieces together. And I say it's kind of like all the cherries lined up. And then it just started spitting out money like crazy. Like I went from barely breaking even for 10 years to making $10 million a year, just like that. And then 10 turned into 50, and 50 turned into 100. And it was just overwhelming. And it looked like, they say the whole thing of, it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. But scriptures say, don't despise the day of small beginnings. I personally love the day of small beginnings. I've learned how to cherish the day of small beginnings. It gives us a chance to make our mistakes in secret. And that scripture that I started off with about Jesus saying what you do in secret will be rewarded in public. One thing I've noticed about the people who come into our program, and the last time we surveyed, 78% of our brand new students, even those with no message, no idea, just sensing the call of God on their lives to impact people, maybe to write books or to speak, but really no track record. 78% of all of our students across the board acquired their first high-paying clients of $1,000 or more in the first 90 days, within the first 90 days. So 78%, even the newbies. But and that's like maybe they make $1,000 to $5,000 in their first 90 days. But what about the ones that make $20,000, $30,000, $70,000 in their first 90 days? What about them? Now, we might call those, the exceptions. These are people who succeed quickly. But what I've noticed about them is they've been on stages, they've been in ministry, they've been writing, they've been honing their gifts and abilities, many of them for a decade, 2 decades, right? So they're more confident in their giftings. And so they will just launch out and say, okay, I've tried a whole bunch of things. New things don't really scare me so much. I'm just going to jump into the $10,000 launch program and see what happens. I'm going to give it my all and see what happens. And those people are the ones who do $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 launches. But what I've noticed about them is they tend not to be the newbies. And I have a word for you today. And here it is when you stop fighting yourself, you can start fighting the enemy, and you can do it really effectively. See, what I've noticed about the ones that take more time to succeed is that they battle insecurities, they battle self-doubt, feelings of imposter syndrome, and they might spend years in that. But when God has given you a vision, he's given you a commission. He doesn't give you a vision that he doesn't plan to fulfill in your life, but it's going to require that you sort of set that stuff aside and get your focus off of you, get your focus off of your insufficiencies. Every powerful hero in the Bible that we admire, they all had the same excuses that we have. They all had the same insecurities. They all had the same fears. But at some point, to do the things that God has called you to do, you have to separate from that and just say, I'm not going to spend my time and energy criticizing myself, fighting myself, questioning my calling. I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do the thing. And I think that really is a key between those who need more time and those who succeed quickly. Is those who succeed quickly, they tend to be the ones who just jump in with both feet.
Yeah, I agree, Coach Sam. We didn't compare notes at all, but we've got a lot of overlap. So let's summarize one of the things that you said about why people succeed fast. And here's how I would kind of break it down is that this is what good experience does for you. So one of the key ingredients are those common denominators, and those who succeed fast, those who do come in and just like pop right out of the gate, they did amazing. And that might take 2 years for somebody who's starting at ground zero, is that they have good experience. And what good experience gives you is two things. It's confidence and competence. When you have good experience, when you've been through the ringer, when you've been through the school of hard knocks, when you've already built a brand, a business, a ministry, an audience, when you've already articulated your message, when you've already gotten some proof of concept and honed your craft, that good experience produces those two things of confidence and competence. So confidence is a superpower. We've done a whole podcast just on confidence because it's an absolute superpower in business, in ministry, in building. Is if you just, hey, believe I can go out and do it, and I'm just going to go out with full faith and full conviction in what I'm doing. That's like a really, really big power up, level up in your success, is just having that outsized confidence. But then we also want to pair that with competence. Like you actually do know what you're doing, right? Like there's a reason for some confidence because I've been there before. I see how this works. I can plug in a new strategy. I can plug in a new tactic. I can take some wisdom from a mentor and run with it, right? And I can run with it with not only with confidence, but also with competence that I do know what I'm doing to some degree. So that's a really, really, I think, important thing just to recognize and like, hey, we'll tell you the people that do that, like, hey, we want you to make your first $3,000 to $5,000 in 90 days. Like if you've got zero confidence, zero competence, zero experience, we can help you go from like $0 to $5,000 in 90 days. That's the goal. But if you've got experience, confidence, and competence, like, hey, we'd love to see you do $20,000, $30,000 in your first 90 days. Now, here's what I don't want you to do is to get discouraged and to say, oh, well, see, those people have experience and that's why they're successful. So I'm not going to really give this a shot because I don't have the experience. I don't have the confidence. I don't have the competence. That would be like the biggest duplicitous, duping lie of the enemy for you to believe, because how did those people get experience, confidence, and competence? They started at ground zero. They started at ground zero too, and then they just started building from scratch, right? And the good news, if you're here with Kingdom Builders, is that you do have a plan. You do have a process to follow. You do have coaches and mentors and community to support you. So starting from scratch in a place like this is like, a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage to have all that. But regardless, you've got to start. Like, you've just absolutely got to start. You can't say, oh, they have experience, that's why they're successful. So what? I'm not going to do anything? No, let me actually go do what they they did and get what they got, which is experience. So I just don't want that to be something that gets twisted into a lie of the enemy that like, oh, you can't be successful because you don't have experience. Instead, he should say, I need experience to be successful. So I need to step out. I need to experience the battlefield. I need to experience the business world. I need to experience the stages, the social media, the conversations, the refining my message. I need to just get that experience because that's going to be a key ingredient in succeeding fast down the road. Let me jump to why people go slow. I think there's a good reason that people go slow, and I think there's a bad reason that people go slow. So people who do just take their time, whether they're experienced, whether they're inexperienced coming into KBA, we see that there's two reasons that people go slow in their journey, a good reason and a bad reason. The good reason is that you need to grow. You need to grow. And it's why one of the reasons we're really excited about the partnerships that we have with International School of Ministry and Vision International University and some of our speakers like John and Lisa Bevere and John Maxwell is that sometimes you need to grow. You need to actually be transformed from the inside out. One of our students has a program, Winning at Life from the Inside Out. It reminds me of that, is that like you've got to get some of those internal wins before you get the external wins. And I know there's a lot of people for good reason that have taken their time in launching their brand, in launching their business, and launching their ministry. We had somebody today in our live chat here, because we're recording this live, say the worship teaching in the associates program has been transformative, right? And we've seen that across the board on the very first module in the double degree program from Dr. Barrett on conquering the sin nature, and things from John Bevere on breaking intimidation. Like there's some things that we need to actually get these internal wins. We need to grow internally. We need to mature and refine and heal in a lot of cases, that we actually need to do that first. We need to have those internal wins before we go out and have the external wins. So that's a good reason. And I think that's something that like, hey, be aware of that. Be gracious on yourself that, hey, I'm growing, I'm maturing, I'm developing internally so that I can reap a big harvest externally when that season comes, once I've put in that preparation. That's the good reason to go slow. The bad reason to go slow, and it is so common. It is so common, and you've probably heard me say it before if you've been with us before, is insecurity, indecision, and procrastination. Insecurity, indecision, and procrastination. So I wanted to put these on your radar as well to be aware of, because if you say, I'm going slow, and it's not because like, hey, I need healing, I need maturity, I need to grow spiritually, internally, and all of these good things. And it's really more of a bad thing that the reason I'm going slow is insecurity. I'm just scared. I'm afraid that my message isn't good enough. Why would anybody listen to me? I don't have, all the clarity and confidence and competence and experience that I'd like to have, right? There's insecurity. Then there's indecision is like, one thing we say to our new students who are seeking clarity is pick a horse and ride it, right? Like you can have like a bunch of different good ideas, but at the end of the day, we got to pick one to go to market with. We got to pick one to build first. And then we can always pivot and do additional things down the road. But initially, it's like pick a horse and ride it. And if you can't make that decision, if you can't be decisive, honestly, that's actually one of the things that I would say on the people who succeed fast, or the people who are decisive, people who can really just make a quick decision, people who have not only speed to action, which I think is probably more important, is just speed to action, but also speed to decision. And, we don't need to belabor every decision. We can just take some things to market. And if we change our mind, we change it. And I think to change your mind is a beautiful thing. And it's good to change your mind, and it's good to pivot. But we want to have speed to decision. So if you're stuck in that second spot of indecision, I can't pick a horse, you got to just pick a horse. You got to just pick one. All right. And then number 3, insecurity, indecision, and procrastination. This is something, Coach Tam, that's funny that I'm doing right now is as I'm doing a 12-week challenge. So I'm doing like weightlifting, I'm doing writing, I'm doing this like 12-week challenge where I'm doing these things 3 times a week. So I have been trying to do my writing, in the morning, and I found that writing is like the number one thing I don't want to do. Like that's like at the top of my list of like of the things that is part of my 12-week challenge. Like writing is the number one that I want to procrastinate. I don't want to do it. It's the hardest one for me to sit down and do. So what do I end up doing? It's like, all right, I'm gonna just like I normally would read the Bible or do some scripture memory in the morning. And normally that's like 15 minutes. That's normally like a 15-minute devotional time that I have in the morning. But now that I know that I'm writing, as soon as I'm done with my Bible study, I'm doing like hour-long Bible studies. And I'm kind of just procrastinating. It sounds like great. Oh, yeah, an hour-long Bible study. That's such a good discipline. But actually, I'm just procrastinating the thing that I'm supposed to do, the thing that I'm called to do. So if you find yourself in one of those positions where, hey, I know I need to do something, and you find yourself like, tidying the house, organizing all the shelves, and like all these things that are just procrastination things, call yourself out. Like let me be a little reminder, but call yourself out that, hey, one of the reasons I'm going slower than I should be is I'm just procrastinating. I'm just putting off the necessary thing and finding something else to fill in the space. And last thing I'll say, Coach Dan, before I pass it back to you, like one of the things, we talk about the people that are really successful. A few important things to recognize. One, I love you shared the quote about it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. Like that's the reality is that like, from the outside, it's like, wow, this person just blew up, like they just like, wow, their book just went astronomical. Like it was amazing. But that probably took them 10 years. Like if you think about your favorite podcast, you probably didn't find it until years after they were recording. If you think about your favorite worship artist, you probably didn't find it until years after they released their first album. Your favorite show, like sometimes it's like season 5 by the time you really picked up this show. It takes time. It takes time and it takes diligence. One thing I was really inspired by from, again, John Bevere coming on one of our events was him talking about being in the 5 a.m. club, that he's like a 5 a.m. rise and shine and like get going. Like that's somebody who's not only put in decades, but to this day is a 5 a.m. club kind of guy. Like, and he's intense. Not everybody who's successful is as intense as he is. But to me, that was inspiring. That was an indicator of why this guy's successful, is because like he not only has put in the decades, but to this day, he's getting up at 5 a.m. John Maxwell's the same way. He gets up at like 5 a.m. and he writes for like 3 hours. So some of it is like putting in the work. It is showing up and it's getting the experience. John Maxwell also has something he says about like, people ask him, hey, how do you build a successful brand? He says, get good. You've got to put in the time. You've got to put in the work. You've got to have the internal wins. You've got to let those things compound and you got to stay in the game. And 10 years later, it's like, oh, wow, they made it. They're an overnight success. I wonder how they did it. They put in the work. They put in the work. They didn't quit. They got over their insecurities. They got out there and just kept stepping forward.
Amen. That is so true. And I think you bring up something here, Zack, that I would call it the process of becoming. And I don't know if you've ever heard this or not, but I think it's great wisdom is don't set goals for the things that you want to achieve, but set the goals that will get you there. So in other words, like let's say that you want to lose 10 pounds. Well, that shouldn't be your goal. That's the outcome. Your goal should be, I'm going to the gym 3 times a week and I'm cutting my calories by 500 a day. That's the thing that's going to get to you to the goal. So that's your real focus. That's your real intent. And I think that you make life harder for yourself if you despise the day of small beginnings. If you, as Zack was saying, you are dealing with procrastination and insecurity and uncertainty, and you let that be your focus. Instead, I'm reminded of where Jesus talks about fasting and prayer. Well, fasting and prayer is not a wildly popular topic. There's some self-sacrifice and some pain associated with it. But Jesus said, when you fast, anoint your head with oil. So many years ago, it's a little embarrassing maybe, but I invented the spa fast. I thought if I'm going to fast and pray, I am going to make it a pleasant time in my life. It's not going to be miserable for me. So when I fast, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a pedicure and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to read my Bible while I'm getting a pedicure, things like that, right? So I'm going to make it pleasant for myself. So, when you feel like you're not succeeding, you're not getting there quick enough, why be miserable through that process? Like better to understand that this is a process of becoming. And wisdom is going to protect you. Wisdom is going to protect you. And these days of small beginnings, it's a chance for you to develop wisdom. But if you don't get wisdom, your success will harm you. So if you get quick success without the things that you need, the foundation that you need, it's going to ultimately harm you. And Zack, I was thinking about while you were speaking about many years ago, there was a young man who was, in my opinion, elevated too quickly in ministry. And he ended up blowing up his life and harming just thousands and thousands of people that it didn't need to go that way, even though he was very gifted. He should have been mentored. He shouldn't have been elevated as quickly as he was and given the platform that he was given because he didn't have the wisdom to deal with it. And part of this thing of building your brand and doing the things that you're called to do, we have to, I believe, embrace and accept the fact that it is a becoming process. And if we're maybe not succeeding as quick as we want to, maybe there's a God reason for that. Maybe there's a God reason for that. And he's giving us space and time to develop our skills. And I wanted to also, Zack, just kind of speak to that thing you were saying about doing the thing that you don't want to do. What's crazy is that once you start doing it and giving yourself to that, you'll find that you get better at it and that you end up enjoying it. And I was going to say, Zack, for you, the next time you pick up a pen and write, I would write down things that you feel that God has given you a message about, God has given you wisdom about, the things that you would like to help transform others with. Write down questions and then just answer those questions. And it won't become a burden to you. It'll become fun to you. You'll just look at your list of questions. I'm going to pick that question today and I'm going to write on this. And it'll eliminate writer's block and it'll make it pleasant for you, right? So I was reminded of when I started Kingdom Builders Academy, and I started from a position of weakness. I was really in a very weak position in my own self personally, emotionally, physically. I was in the process of going through a terrible divorce, and it was just a miserable, long, miserable season of my life. And yet I felt called by God to do what I'm doing now. And I started by producing an online course. I had experience of being on video, but I didn't have experience of editing video. And I didn't think that I would enjoy the process. And in fact, I was convinced I would hate the process. And I would have procrastinated, except that I had already sold the program and I had a bunch of people waiting for me to produce it. So I didn't have time to procrastinate. I had to learn how to do this stuff. I didn't have the money to pay somebody else to do it. I had the money to buy an editing program, editing software, and I had to edit the video myself. And I remember crying when I opened up that software for the first time. It was so many buttons and levers and sliders and boxes, and I just was overwhelmed. And I sat there and I cried. And after about 30 minutes of crying, I thought, okay, well, this is not helping. This is not productive. So I'm just going to have to press in and figure it out. And I did. And you know what? It turned out to be one of my favorite things. I love editing video. I really do. It's a lot of fun. But I was very intimidated by it. So part of this process of becoming is leaning into those things that you're scared of, leaning into those things that you fear, leaning into those things that you perceive are going to be difficult and that you're not going to like it. But I guarantee you, mark my words, you can come back and thank me later. Those are the things, so many of them, that you're going to find out, I really love this. I mean, it was foolish of me to be afraid. It was foolish of me to entertain fear because this is really fun and I'm really good at it. But you're never going to know that unless you press into it to learn those things. Hope that's a blessing to you.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Let's wrap up this episode. I know we could go on and on about this stuff, but I want to just circle back to one thing, that just on that procrastination, right? Because I think it is a hard thing to do, the thing you don't want to do. Like it is like that's like a universal, like any stage, there's always that, right? And my favorite thing to recognize and to call out is that the worry is worse than the work. For every single instance I can think of, the worry is worse than the work, right? So, and what I mean by that is that sitting in the worry of, oh, I don't want to write. Oh, I don't want to make that call. I'm a little like, I'm putting that thing off. That state that you put yourself in of experiencing I'm putting it off. I don't want to do it. I'm going to do something else. And like, I kind of dread it. And you kind of get that like feeling in your body of like, I'm avoiding it, right? That procrastination, that worry about doing it is worse than the work, right? Because when I sit down to write, it's not painful. It's actually not that hard. Like I can write. I'm just putting it off, right? I'm just not wanting to do it. And that state of sitting in the worry and sitting in the procrastination, you've got to just call yourself out. This is worse than actually picking up the phone and making the call. This is worse than picking up the pen and starting to write. So it's just like one of those things that like we make these things like they're like so bad, like, oh, writing, it's so hard. And, calling somebody and asking, for a referral. Oh, like that's so hard. Like those things are not that hard. Like they're like, we make them scary. We make them things we don't want to do. And we'll procrastinate them for months and months and months. But at the end of the day, like, hey, call yourself out. Like worrying and procrastinating, like that is worse. And just like the experience of sitting in worry and procrastination is worse than the experience of like picking up the phone and making a call. You actually feel good when you do it. You feel good when you've done the thing that you didn't want to do. So like, hey, be a little like, I want to say selfish, but like be reasonable in that, like, hey, if I want to feel better, I should do the thing I don't want to do. Because I'm going to feel worse. I'm going to feel worse right now avoiding the thing that I don't want to do. And I will immediately feel better when I have actually done the thing, or even am in the middle of doing the thing that I don't want to do. So the worry is worse than the work is one that I come back to a lot. So love this episode. Coach Tam, thank you for another great podcast. Thank you guys for joining us on the Kingdom Builders Academy podcast. If you like this, share it with a friend. Give us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. God bless you guys. Talk soon.
Hi, this is Tamara Lowe, founder of Kingdom Builders Academy, here with a free gift for you, our loyal podcast listeners. We're giving away free copies of my newest book, Business Plus Ministry Equals Success, a superior model to profitably change your world. You can download your free copy right now at kbabook.com. That's kbabook.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Kingdom Builders Academy podcast today. Join us again for our next exciting episode.